Jai Shri Radhe. Continuing with the Varta of the 252 Vaishnava disciples of Sri Gosaiji. Today we are starting with Varta 124 and it is day number 145. Sab Vaishnavanko, Sadenya, Sanamra, Sadar, Saprem, Jai Shri Krishna. The story of a cobbler who lived in a village on the road to Dwarka. Bhav Prakash. This is a devotee of Sattvic disposition in the eternal Leela. His name is Brahmanandini, who manifests from Shashikala and is thus a form of her divine loving sentiment. Once Sri Gosaiji, Part 1. Once Sri Gosaiji was on his way to Dwarka to have the holy sight of Shri Ranchorlalji. The cobbler lived along that road. Sri Gosaiji set up camp outside his village. After completing all of the morning Seva and having settled Shri Thakurji down for his afternoon nap, Sri Gosaiji had partaken of prasad and was sitting comfortably in his bertak. All of the temple servants had also partaken of prasad. At that very time, the cobbler was passing by and he had the sight of Sri Gosaiji. He saw him as the Supreme Lord himself. He felt great bliss and prostrated before Sri Gosaiji, saying, "O Maharaj, please grace me by allowing me to become your disciple." Sri Gosaiji initiated him with the Lord's name. Sri Gosaiji instructed him, "Please find a Swarupa of Sri Thakurji and make his seva." The cobbler piped up, "I have one shaligram." Sri Gosaiji told him to bring the shaligram to him, and he proceeded to bathe it in the 5 nectars and establish a place for his worship. He told the cobbler to serve him. He then continued on his journey to Dwarka. The cobbler had become very attached to Sri Gosaiji, and so he began to worship the shaligram whilst in the mood of Sri Gosaiji. He wore a sacred forehead mark, nice bright unsewn clothes, dhoti anuparna, and nothing else. He looked and behaved like a Brahmin. The other Brahmins of that village began to persecute him. "You are a common labourer, so why are you imitating a Brahmin?" The cobbler replied, "Because I am a Brahmin." The other Brahmins said, "As if buttermilk were able to turn into whole milk." The cobbler retorted, "With the Lord's grace, even that is possible, because the Lord is all-powerful." The Brahmins said that they would believe him if they could see it happen with their own eyes. The cobbler had some buttermilk brought over to him. He supplicated the Lord, "O Maharaj, if through the mere association of Sri Gosaiji I have gained the status of a Brahmin, then please transform this buttermilk into whole milk." After half an hour, the buttermilk was indeed transformed into whole milk, and the Brahmins were shocked and amazed to see this. The cobbler cooked sweet rice pudding with the milk and fed it to all of them. The Brahmins all paid their respects to the cobbler and then went home. Thereafter no one was mean to the cobbler. In fact, they all had a great respect for him. Bhav Prakash. The moral of this story is that the form of a Vaishnava is truly divine because the Lord of all is residing always in their hearts. Really, they are possessed of Brahminical qualities and character. Thus concludes Varta 124, the story of the cobbler who was the recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace and an accomplished Vaishnava. There is no end to his tale. Continuing with Varta 125, the story of a merchant from Agra. This is a devotee of Rajasi disposition in the eternal Leela. His name is Ulasini, who manifests from Shashikala and is thus a form of her divine loving sentiment. He was born to a wealthy merchant in Agra who, in his business dealings, often met with Rupa Chandananda. He was always very impressed with Rupa Chandananda's behaviour and ways and often told him that he felt some affection for his path. He expressed a desire to become a Vaishnava. Rupa Chandananda never replied because he knew that if the merchant was a divine soul, then his acceptance into the path was inevitable, and it was just a matter of time. Some days later, Sri Gosaiji visited Rupa Chandananda, and the merchant got to see him. He requested Rupa Chandananda to help him become a disciple. Rupa Chandananda passed his supplication on to Sri Gosaiji, who then blessed him with the Lord's name and the Brahma Sambandha. He then went home and fetched his wife and son to Rupa Chandananda's house, and they had them both granted the 2 initiations. They became Vaishnavas. The family of 3 thereafter regularly attended satsangs at Rupa Chandananda's house. Not long after, however, the merchant and his wife both died. The son was alone at home. He had not yet been married off and thought to himself, "I do not really want to get mixed up in worldly affairs. The Lord has granted me a good body and it is my real duty to use it to serve him." When Sri Gosaiji again visited Agra, then the son of the merchant requested him to grant him the seva of the Lord. Part 1. Sri Gosaiji granted him the seva of Sri Madan Mohanji. The merchant had a lot of wealth and he set up an opulent seva. situation for the Sri Thakurji. He had one servant whom he sent to buy fruit and vegetables for the Seva, but he never ever bought nice stuff. He always bought the cheapest he could find. The merchant would ask him over and over, "Why do you not bring me the very best you can find? If you have to pay a lot, you are still paying with my money only. Please bring the very best you can find." He told the servant many times, but he could not still understand. The merchant thought to himself, "This man is of no good use to the Seva. If I had a Vaishnava to help me, then the very best items would come." There was one Vaishnava in that village who used to beg for supplies. He would come to his house to beg every day at midday. The merchant addressed him, "O Vaishnava, I have one problem which I would like to share with you." The Vaishnava said, "Please do tell me. I shall help you if I can." The merchant said, "My servant is incapable of bringing nice fruits and vegetables from the market. I have told him many times, would you agree to bring your Thakurji, Sri Thakurji, to my house to stay with my Sri Thakurji, and you do the seva of the purchasing of the fruit and veg? That would be very nice." The Vaishnava agreed. "I will try to make you happy." The renunciate Vaishnava then brought his Sri Thakurji to the merchant's home and purchased and served in the fruit and vegetable purchase and preparation. He would go to Agra to make purchases and always bought the best and most expensive items. The merchant was very pleased with him and soon after put him in charge of his treasury, telling him that he could then just take whatever he needed for the purchases whenever necessary. In the afternoon we will write up the accounts. The renunciate Vaishnava proceeded to purchase supplies, nuts and dried fruits and vegetables, etc., as he thought fit, and paid for them himself. When the Rajbhog Arati was over and they had partaken of Mahaprasad, he would show the merchant the accounts. Many days passed like this. Then came the month of Kartik. In the market, one trader had a most beautiful melon for sale. The Vaishnava was happy to see it and thought, it is unusual to see such a melon in the market at this time of year. It would be nice to offer this to Sri Thakurji. He asked the price. The trader wanted 1 rupee for it. The Vaishnava agreed to the price. One Muslim Mughal was standing nearby. He offered to pay 2 rupees for it. The Vaishnava then offered 5 rupees for it, but the Mughal countered with an offer of 10 rupees. The Vaishnava offered 100 rupees and the Mughal offered 500 rupees. The Vaishnava began to get annoyed and offered 1,000 rupees. The Mughal gave up bargaining. Then the Vaishnava brought the trader to the merchant's house and got him the 1,000 rupee purse. He took it with him. The Vaishnava took the melon into the room where the fruits and vegetables were kept and prepared along with all the other purchased items. It was time for the Rajbhog Arati. The two of them completed their seva and settled Sri Thakurji down for his afternoon rest. The merchant and the renunciate partook of Mahaprasad and then sat down. The renunciate suggested that they write out that day's accounts, and the merchant agreed. The renunciate told him the expenses, and the merchant wrote them down. The first item was the vegetables, the second was the dried fruits, the nuts, and next were the fruit. The renunciate itemized the melon that had cost 1,000 rupees. The merchant wrote down that expense in exactly the same way as he had written the rest of them. He did not even ask why the melon had cost so much. He was completely trustful of the other Vaishnava. He knew that he would always do the right thing. In this way, the merchant's nature was spotless. Having written out the accounts, the two of them took half an hour's rest. Sri Thakurji then came from his resting place and snuck into the room where all the fruit and vegetables and fruit were kept. He took the melon with him back to his temple. He began to play with it. The two Vaishnavas got up an hour before the afternoon services in order to read some devotional treatises. Then they arose. This was their daily routine. Serve Sri Thakurji during seva times, partake of Mahaprasad and then sleep for a short time. Then they would read together the literary works of Sri Vallabhacharyaji and Sri Gosaiji. It was an hour before the Uttapan seva when the two of them got up and bathed. The merchant bathed and entered the temple. The renunciate bathed and went into the fruit and vegetable room to prepare the afternoon offerings. He could not find the melon in that room. He felt most perplexed and thought, see, the merchant wrote down the melon that cost 1,000 rupees. He did not even ask about it. If he does not see the melon, he will think I took 1,000 rupees for him, using the melon as an excuse. I spent 1,000 rupees on a melon, but the Lord did not even get to accept it. I am such a foolish man. I am full of faults. Why would the Lord ever want to accept my offerings anyway? In this way, the renunciate was full of despair. He then prepared all the other fruits as he usually did and entered the temple. The merchant was just opening the temple door for the afternoon Uttapan seva. Sri Thakurji was sitting on his throne with a melon in his upraised hand. The merchant was delighted to have this holy sight. He addressed the renunciate Vaishnava. "O Vaishnavaji, you bought such a wonderful melon for Sri Thakurji that he is holding it aloft in his lotus hand. Go and see." The renunciate was also overjoyed to see this. All the sadness that had been in his heart was dispersed and he was filled with bliss. Then Sri Thakurji said to the merchant, "You are great. You did not ask the other Vaishnava why the melon he had brought cost 1,000 rupees. You have complete trust in that Vaishnava, and I am very pleased with both of you. Please ask of me whatever you would like." The merchant piped up, "What I want is to always have such pure feelings towards Vaishnavas which will ever increase, so that I shall never have any kind of negative thoughts towards them." Sri Thakurji was very pleased with him. Then the Lord addressed the renunciate, "I am very pleased with you too, because you bought me a mango that cost 1,000 rupees. Ask anything of me." He answered, "O Lord, please let me always have the association of this merchant. Because of him my mind has become pure. Let us live forever in this way." Sri Thakurji agreed. The merchant asked Sri Thakurji, "O dear Lord, shall I take the melon and prepare it for you?" Sri Thakurji replied, "This melon is very, very dear to me. Let me keep it for today. I shall play with it. Please prepare it tomorrow afternoon." The merchant said, "But dear Lord, the melon will go bad by tomorrow." Sri Thakurji replied, "I have touched the melon, now it will not go bad. Do not worry." The merchant bowed to his Lord, washed his hands, and proceeded to prepare and offer the usual afternoon fruits. He also completed the Lord's Seva until he had taken rest for the night. He then came out of the temple and said to the renunciate Vaishnava, "Oh, you are most fortunate in that Sri Thakurji has so lovingly accepted the melon that you offered to him." The renunciate Vaishnava replied, "You are most fortunate and to be thanked, inasmuch as you have such spotless faith in a Vaishnava." So we are ceasing the story today. We are pausing here until tomorrow and continuing there. Aaj ke Anand ki jai. Sab Vaishnavan ko Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Jai Shri Radhe.